A product manager, $140,000 salary, works for a tech company in Austin, Texas. On paper, he's crushing it. After taxes, rent, health insurance, and groceries, he has $800 left at the end of the month. $800 on a $140,000 salary. His coworker does the exact same job, same salary, same company, same Zoom calls. She moved to Valencia, Spain 2 years ago. She has $3,000 left at the end of every month, takes 5 weeks of vacation a year, sees a doctor for $20, walks to the beach on Fridays, same job, same paycheck, different life. This video is going to show you the actual math behind that gap, line by line, category by category, and let you decide which side of the equation you want to be on. We're not doing top 10 places to move abroad clickbait. We're not here to sell you a dream. We're going to compare 4 real categories where the numbers actually diverge: housing, healthcare, taxes, and the one that nobody talks about, the hidden cost of staying. And at the end, I'm going to show you the one type of person for whom moving abroad is a genuinely bad idea, because this isn't for everyone, and pretending it is would be dishonest. Let's go. Round 1, housing. The average rent in the US in 2025 hit $2,100 per month nationally. In major cities, Austin, Denver, Miami, you're looking at $2,500 to $3,500 for a 1-bedroom apartment. And here's what that actually costs you over time. Not just the rent check, the opportunity cost. If you're spending $3,000 a month on rent in Austin, that's $36,000 a year after taxes, meaning you have to earn roughly $50,000 to $55,000 gross just to cover the place you sleep, before food, before transportation, before anything resembling a life. Now let's compare. A 1-bedroom in Lisbon, Portugal, $1,300, Medellin, Colombia, $500, Chiang Mai, Thailand, $400, Mexico City, $800, Tbilisi, Georgia, one of the fastest growing expat cities in the world right now, $600. But here's what the math really looks like over time. If you're renting in Austin at $2,500, that's $30,000 a year. In Lisbon at $1,300, that's $15,600. The difference, $14,400 a year, put into a hypothetical index fund tracking historical market returns over 10 years, becomes somewhere in the range of $190,000 to $200,000, depending on market conditions. You didn't get a raise, you didn't work more hours, you just changed the zip code. Now, buying. The median U.S. home price crossed $400,000 in 2025. With a standard 20% down payment, that's $80,000 out of pocket before you've paid a single dollar of the mortgage itself. The monthly payment on a $400,000 home at current rates? Around $2,600 to $2,900, just the mortgage. Property tax, insurance, and maintenance on top of that. A comparable house in Valencia, Spain, a city with Mediterranean weather, world-class food, and excellent infrastructure, costs $180,000 to $250,000. Many Americans who sold their U.S. homes in the last few years bought a European property outright. No mortgage, no monthly payment. That's an extra $2,500 to $3,000 freed up every single month for the rest of their lives. Round 1 goes to abroad, not close. Round 2, healthcare. This is the number that shocks people the most, and it should. The average American with employer-sponsored insurance pays $600 to $800 per month in premiums alone. That's before deductibles, before copays, before the $4,500 out-of-pocket maximum that kicks in when something actually goes wrong. Here's a real scenario that plays out constantly in America. Someone goes to the ER with chest pain. It turns out to be a panic attack. No procedure, no surgery, no overnight stay. They're home in 4 hours. The bill, $4,200. That happens routinely, and it is completely normal by American standards. An American product manager with a family of 3 Easily $1,500 to $2,000 per month in total healthcare costs when you factor premiums, deductibles, and copays together. That's $18,000 to $24,000 a year. Gone before you've seen a single doctor for anything serious. Now let's go abroad. In Spain, public healthcare, covered for legal residents. A specialist visit costs you nothing. In Portugal, the same. Germany, France, the Netherlands, all of Western Europe operates on the same model. You pay into the system through local taxes, and the system covers you. In Mexico, a private doctor's appointment, not public, not waiting rooms, actual private care, runs $20 to $40. A private MRI in Mexico City costs around $200. The same MRI in the US without insurance, $1,500 to $3,000. Thailand has some of the best hospitals in Southeast Asia, Joint Commission accredited, English-speaking staff, internationally trained surgeons for a fraction of US prices. Hip replacement in the US, $40,000 to $60,000. The same procedure at Bumrungrad International in Bangkok, $12,000 to $15,000. And people fly there from America specifically for that surgery, pay for the flight and the hotel, and still come home ahead. International health insurance for an American living in Europe or Southeast Asia runs $500 to $1,500 per year for solid coverage. Per year, not per month. The gap in healthcare costs alone, $15,000 to $20,000 per year, is the single largest financial argument for leaving. It doesn't require a spreadsheet, it requires a calculator and 5 minutes. Round 2 goes to abroad. It's not even a debate. Round 3, taxes. This is where it gets complicated. Here's the part that every move abroad influencer glosses over because it doesn't fit the dream. The United States is one of only 2 countries in the world, the other's Eritrea, that taxes its citizens on worldwide income regardless of where they live. Let that sink in. You move to Portugal. You're working remotely for an American company. You pay Portuguese taxes, and you still file US taxes every year from a cafe in Lisbon forever, until you renounce your citizenship, which is a whole separate conversation. This is called citizenship-based taxation. Every other developed nation on earth uses residence-based taxation, meaning if you don't live there, they don't tax you. The US is the exception. Now, there's something called the Foreign Earned Income Exclusion, or FEIE. In 2026, the exclusion limit is $132,900. If you qualify, and that depends on your specific situation, it may allow some expats to legally reduce their US taxable income. This is not tax advice. Talk to an expat CPA before assuming you qualify. There's also the foreign tax credit, which lets some expats offset US taxes with taxes already paid to their host country, reducing or sometimes eliminating the double taxation problem entirely. Again, the specifics depend entirely on individual circumstances. Portugal, for its part, used to offer a flat 20% tax rate for foreign residents under the NHR program. That program ended for new applicants, but alternatives exist. Georgia has a flat 1% tax rate for small business owners who qualify as virtual zone companies. Costa Rica has a territorial tax system. If the income is earned outside Costa Rica, it's not taxed there. Paraguay, flat 10% on income earned in-country. The landscape exists. It just requires homework. The bottom line, taxes abroad are manageable, but they usually require a real accountant who specializes in expat tax law. Most expats end up budgeting $500 to $1,500 a year for that setup. Factor that in. It doesn't erase the math, but it's a real cost that the dream sellers rarely mention. Round 3, slight edge to abroad if approached correctly. A wash, or worse, if not. Round 4, the hidden cost of staying. This is the one nobody puts on a spreadsheet, and it might be the most expensive of all. 42% of American adults have considered moving abroad. That number is from a 2025 Harris poll. Among Gen Z, it's 63%. Among millennials, 52%. Those aren't fringe numbers. That's half the country running some version of this calculation in their heads. Why? Because they've done the math and arrived at a conclusion that isn't just financial. In 2025, the US recorded its first net negative migration since the 1930s. More people left than arrived. Citizenship renunciations hit record highs 2 years in a row. These aren't people fleeing poverty. Most of them are remote workers aged 30 to 45 in tech and creative fields, college-educated, high-earning. They looked at the trajectory, housing costs, healthcare costs, the math that doesn't improve no matter how many raises you get, and made a rational decision. But here's the cost that nobody quantifies. It's not just the $36,000 a year in rent or the $20,000 a year in healthcare. It's what those numbers do to the way you live. It's the 60-hour work week required to afford the same lifestyle your parents had on one income. It's the $1,500 monthly health insurance premium that's always exactly one layoff away from disappearing. It's the Sunday night anxiety that comes not from the job itself, but from the knowledge that everything, the apartment, the healthcare, the retirement contributions, depends on a single employer not deciding to restructure next quarter. Americans abroad describe something that doesn't have a name on a spreadsheet: the feeling of slack, of not being one emergency away from financial disaster, of making the same money, but having room to breathe for the first time in their adult lives. A 2024 survey of American expats found that 78% report a higher quality of life abroad, not a higher income, a higher quality of life on the same or similar income. That gap is entirely explained by the cost side of the equation. That cost doesn't show up in any spreadsheet, but it shows up in everything else. So, which is better? Here's the honest answer. And I mean actually honest, not hedge everything honest. If you earn in US dollars, work remotely, and your income doesn't require you to be physically in America, the math almost always favors living abroad. The housing gap alone is $15,000 to $20,000 a year. The healthcare gap is another $15,000 to $20,000. Combined, that's $30,000 to $40,000 back in your pocket annually, without a raise, without a promotion, without a side hustle. That's the Valencia example. That's documented. That's real. Now, who is this genuinely wrong for? First, anyone whose income is physically tied to the US, a medical practice, a brick-and-mortar business, a government job, a role that requires a security clearance. Moving abroad doesn't change the income side. It only changes the cost side. If you can't bring the income with you, the math doesn't work the same way. Second, anyone with deep family obligations here, aging parents who need regular support, kids in a specific school system with friendships and roots, a community, a church, a neighborhood, a network that took decades to build and cannot be replicated by joining an expat Facebook group in Lisbon. No spreadsheet wins against that, not at any number. Third, and this is the one nobody warns about clearly enough, anyone who goes without doing the tax homework first. Going abroad without understanding the US tax filing requirements, the FBAR rules, or the self-employment tax implications can leave a remote worker worse off than when they started. The dream sellers skip this part. The math doesn't. This is not a simple answer. Anyone telling you it is selling something. What it is a calculation that millions of Americans are running right now, some quietly, some loudly, while sitting in an Austin apartment paying $2,500 in rent, staring at the health insurance line item and thinking, does this actually have to be this way? The math says no, it doesn't have to be this way. What you do with that math is yours to decide. Which category hit hardest for you? Housing, healthcare, or taxes? Drop it in the comments. I read everyone.